has lost his battle with AIDS just 10 days after revealing that he had the disease.
I have never believed the official story of my father's. I have always believed that something else happened, and I'm afraid of what that might be.
Eazy-E built a rap empire worth millions, but died in just 10 days after revealing he had AIDS. The Godfather of Gangsta Rap dominated the streets and the charts, but what killed him wasn't the disease.
If Eazy would have known he got poked, he would have said something. If he didn't know he got poked, then the conspiracy lives on.
Would you put it past?
Eazy went from healthy to dead in weeks. Doctors who treated him vanished, and his biggest enemy went on TV to explain exactly how to kill someone with an AIDS injection.
Right. So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An Eazy-E thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is how the Godfather of Gangsta Rap was really murdered. So, let's get into it. Eric Lynn Wright was born September 7th, 1964, in Compton, California, a city that would become synonymous with his name and the hardcore sound of West Coast rap. Growing up in one of America's most dangerous neighborhoods, Eric learned early that survival meant being tougher, smarter, and more ruthless than everyone around you. His father Richard worked for the Postal Service, and his mother Kathy was a grade school administrator. They tried to keep their son on the right path, but Compton's streets had a stronger pull than any classroom. By the time Eric was in high school, he was already deep into the drug trade that fueled the neighborhood's economy. He dropped out in the 10th grade, but that wasn't the end of his education. The streets taught him lessons about business, power, and respect that no textbook could provide. Eric started dealing marijuana and quickly discovered he had a natural talent for the hustle. He was small in stature but huge in ambition, using intelligence and fearlessness to build his territory. By 1986, Eric had reportedly made around $250,000 from drug dealing. He was living the life that would later inspire countless rap songs. Fast money, constant danger, and the respect that came from being someone you didn't cross, but everything changed when his cousin was shot and killed in a drug deal gone wrong. The death forced him to confront a harsh reality. He could continue dealing and eventually end up dead or in prison, or he could find another way to make money. That's when he started paying attention to the growing hip-hop scene in Los Angeles and began recording songs in his parents' garage. In 1986, Eazy-E met Jerry Heller, a music industry veteran who saw something special in the young man from Compton. Together, they founded Ruthless Records with $250,000 of Eazy's drug money. The label's name perfectly captured their approach. They would be ruthless in pursuing success. Eazy's first major decision was assembling a group that would revolutionize hip-hop. He brought together Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, DJ Yella, MC Ren, and Arabian Prince to form NWA, Niggas Wit Attitudes. Their first single, Boys in the Hood, told stories about life in Compton with unflinching honesty that mainstream America had never heard before.
Boys in the hood are always hard. You come talking that trash, we'll pull your car. Knowing nothing.
In 1988, they released Straight Outta Compton, an album that changed hip-hop forever. Songs like F the Police brought them national attention and FBI scrutiny. The controversy only increased sales, proving Eazy's understanding that outrage could be converted into profit.
Why you came up with these songs?
I think somebody should write a song called F the Police. No, it's like when we wrote the song F the Police, it's the stuff that we've been through before and that everybody around us been through. People been going through for years, but we was, everybody else was scared to put it on record. So we put it on record.
By this time, Ruthless Records was generating approximately $10 million per month with only 6 employees. Eazy had transformed from a local drug dealer to the head of one of the most successful independent record labels in music history. He was building wealth and power in an industry historically controlled by white executives. But success brought new challenges. Money was huge, but so were tensions within the group. Ice Cube grew suspicious about financial arrangements and eventually left Ruthless. His departure was just the beginning of problems that would eventually tear NWA apart and create the conditions for Eazy's downfall. By the early 1990s, Eazy-E's Ruthless Records empire was under attack from all sides. The FBI was monitoring their activities, rival record labels were trying to steal their artists, and internal tensions were tearing NWA apart. What had started as a brotherhood was becoming a business war that would ultimately cost Eazy his life. The first major blow came when Ice Cube left the group in 1989, claiming that Jerry Heller was manipulating the finances and that Eazy was letting it happen. Cube's departure song, No Vaseline, was a vicious attack on Eazy that damaged his reputation and credibility within the hip-hop community.
That's why I went solo and kept on stomping while y'all moved straight out of camp.
But the real threat came from Suge Knight and Death Row Records. Knight was everything Eazy wasn't: physically imposing, violently aggressive, and willing to use intimidation tactics that went far beyond normal business competition. When Dr. Dre expressed frustration with his Ruthless contract, Knight offered to help him get out of it. Knight's methods were brutal and effective. According to multiple witnesses, he kidnapped Jerry Heller and threatened Eazy's mother. He showed up at Ruthless Records offices with baseball bats and gang members, making it clear that this wasn't a negotiation. It was extortion. The pressure campaign worked. Eazy was forced to release Dr. Dre from his contract, losing his most valuable producer and creative partner. Dre immediately signed with Death Row and began working on The Chronic, an album that would mock and humiliate Eazy throughout its runtime. This wasn't just about business anymore. It had become personal. The feud between Eazy and Dr. Dre played out in the media and through their music, with each side releasing increasingly hostile diss tracks. But Dre had the backing of Death Row's violent reputation, while Eazy was essentially fighting alone. The stress was taking a physical toll on Eazy. Friends noticed he was smoking more, drinking more, and becoming increasingly paranoid about his safety. He started carrying weapons and traveling with bodyguards, understanding that his conflict with Suge Knight could turn deadly at any moment. Meanwhile, Ruthless Records was bleeding money and talent. Without Dr. Dre's production skills, Eazy struggled to maintain the label's musical quality. Other artists began questioning whether they wanted to be associated with a label that was clearly under siege. Eazy tried to fight back by signing new artists like Bone Thugs-n-Harmony and releasing his own diss tracks targeting Dr. Dre and Death Row. His 1993 EP It's On was a commercial success, proving he could still move units despite the controversy.
Hey, Mr. Prankster, storybook gangster, back in 86 you wore the pumps and mascara.
By 1995, Eazy-E found himself in an impossible position. His empire was crumbling, his former friends had become enemies, and he was facing threats from multiple directions. The man who had conquered the music industry through intelligence and street smarts was now trapped in a war he couldn't win. What happened next would convince many people that the war had claimed its most important casualty. In early 1995, Eazy-E appeared to be in perfect health. At 31 years old, he was still actively running Ruthless Records, recording new music, and planning future projects. Friends and family noticed nothing unusual about his appearance or energy levels. That's what makes what happened next so suspicious to those who knew him best. Around February 16, 1995, Eazy began experiencing breathing complications. What started as minor chest discomfort quickly escalated to the point where he needed medical attention. Initially, everyone assumed it was asthma, a common condition that shouldn't have been life-threatening for someone his age. Eazy was admitted to Norwalk Community Hospital on February 16th and released 3 days later on February 19th. He felt well enough to go directly from the hospital to a pharmacy and then to the studio with his friend BG Knockout. This recovery seemed to confirm that whatever was wrong wasn't serious.
Okay, so he came in 2/16, February 16th, 95, was released February 19th, 1995.
When he was in there for that first time, he came straight from the hospital to the studio with me. Straight from the hospital to the pharmacy to the studio with me.
But the relief was temporary. Over the next few days, Eazy continued experiencing chest congestion and breathing difficulties. The situation took a dramatic turn around February 24th when Eazy was in the studio with BG Knockout. They needed him to record a final part, but he wasn't in the recording booth.
He was in the back of the studio, that little hallway. And I went out there like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, E, can you please come on and do your little part so we can turn this album in? He was like, hold on.
Each time Knockout returned to get Eazy, his condition appeared worse. The final time, he found Eazy wheezing heavily and desperately, using an inhaler to clear his breathing passages. The deterioration was rapid and frightening. In about an hour and a half, Eazy went from appearing relatively normal to being unable to speak properly. His lungs had collapsed, and he was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center.
In about an hour and a half time of him being in the studio, his lungs collapsed. And then he was admitted back. That's when I told the bodyguards, his breathing wasn't cool, to come and grab him. And they took him and put him in a car and drove him to the hospital.
At the hospital, doctors delivered shocking news. Eazy had tested positive for HIV/AIDS, a diagnosis that would kill him in less than a month. The AIDS diagnosis hit Eazy-E like a death sentence, which is exactly what it was in 1995. In an era when HIV treatment was primitive and survival rates were grim, most patients could expect months or even years to live with proper care. But Eazy wouldn't get that time. He would be dead within weeks of learning about his condition, a timeline so compressed it defied medical understanding. What happened during those final days raises questions that still haven't been answered, questions that point to something far more sinister than a tragic illness. By March 16th, Eazy was in terrible condition. The disease had allegedly progressed to the point where he contracted pneumonia and could barely breathe on his own. Hospital staff described him as completely immobilized, drifting in and out of consciousness as his body fought a losing battle. He was facing the reality that he was going to die, but even in this weakened state, the machinery of his empire continued to turn, and certain people were positioning themselves to take control. That day, Eazy allegedly dictated a letter to his attorney, Ron Sweeney, to be read at a press conference, revealing his AIDS diagnosis to the world. The statement was articulate and thoughtful, acknowledging his mistakes and urging young people to practice safe sex.
I would like to turn my own problem into something good that will reach out to all my homeboys and their kin, because I want to save their before it's too late.
But even this final message raises questions that cut to the heart of the mystery. If Eazy was paralyzed and unconscious as doctors claimed, barely able to breathe without assistance, how was he able to dictate such a coherent, well-structured statement? The mental clarity required for such a message seemed impossible for someone in the advanced stages of AIDS-related dementia and organ failure. The timeline doesn't match the medical reality of his supposed condition, suggesting either the hospital records were falsified or someone else crafted those words. The most suspicious event happened around this same time: Eazy's marriage to his pregnant girlfriend, Tomika Woods. According to official records, they were married while Eazy was hospitalized and fighting for his life, unable to speak coherently or move independently. This wasn't just a romantic gesture, it was a legal maneuver with massive financial implications. As his wife, Tomika would inherit control of Ruthless Records and Eazy's entire estate worth over $20 million, instantly making her one of the most powerful women in hip-hop.
At that time, the only ones that knew I was pregnant was he and I. We got married at the hospital because he wasn't sure if he was going to make it through.
But family members immediately questioned this marriage's legitimacy, and their suspicions weren't based on jealousy or grief. They had concrete reasons to doubt what had happened. If Eazy was unconscious and paralyzed, how could he have consented to marriage or signed legal documents? When they demanded to examine the marriage certificate, they discovered something that should have invalidated the entire union. Eazy's signature wasn't handwritten. His name was typed on the document, a detail so obviously fraudulent it seemed like someone wasn't even trying to hide the deception.
Wasn't nobody there. Wasn't nobody there, bro, to really know for sure. We know he couldn't write. He didn't sign the marriage certificate. We know that his name is typed on it.
The implications were staggering. Someone had either forged Eazy's consent or manipulated a dying man into signing away his life's work. Family members began asking why they hadn't been informed of the marriage, why it had happened in secret, and why the legal paperwork looked so suspicious. But their questions would never get satisfactory answers. On March 26, 1995, Eazy-E died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. The official cause was pneumonia brought on by AIDS complications, a neat explanation that wrapped up all the loose ends, but the cover-up had already begun, and the people who stood to benefit most from Eazy's death were already moving to consolidate their power. If the medical and legal evidence wasn't convincing enough, what happened next would make Eazy-E's death look even more suspicious. In 2003, 8 years after Eazy's death, Suge Knight appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and made a statement that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. During the interview, Knight casually explained his preferred method for killing someone without getting caught by law enforcement. His description was chillingly specific and seemed to reference Eazy-E directly.
So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS. Yeah. And then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An Eazy-E thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Knight's comment about the Eazy-E thing was interpreted by many as a barely disguised confession. He was describing exactly how someone could inject a person with AIDS-contaminated blood to cause a slow, seemingly natural death, and he specifically connected this method to Eazy-E's case. When Knight was later asked directly if his statement was serious or just attention-seeking, he refused to confirm or deny the allegations, saying he didn't want to incriminate himself. This response only fueled more speculation about his involvement. Several of Eazy's friends and collaborators began speaking out about their suspicions. Frost, who was signed to Ruthless Records, became one of the most vocal proponents of the murder theory. According to Frost, the method of infection was through tainted acupuncture needles.
But I think that they really had a stronghold of giving him tainted needles with the virus in them through acupuncture because...
BG Knockout, who was with Eazy during his final healthy days, also became convinced that his mentor had been murdered. He released a song called In My Prime, with lyrics directly accusing unnamed parties of killing Eazy. The speed of Eazy's decline remained the biggest problem with the official story. Multiple people who knew him personally pointed out that his death came too suddenly to match the typical progression of AIDS. As one observer noted, people with AIDS usually showed visible signs of deterioration before death, but Eazy looked healthy right up until his final collapse. Eazy's daughter, who became an AIDS activist after his father's death, spent years studying the disease and became increasingly convinced that the official story was false. During her investigation, she discovered disturbing evidence about the paperwork surrounding her father's death.
I have never believed the official story of my father's. I have always believed that something else happened, and I'm afraid of what that might be.
The financial aftermath also raised suspicions. Tomika Woods Wright inherited control of Eazy's entire $20 million estate, while the other mothers of his children reportedly received only $75,000 each and were then cut off from any further support. More than 25 years after Eazy-E's death, the questions surrounding his passing refused to go away. Time hasn't healed these wounds or provided satisfying answers, Instead, it's only deepened the mystery and strengthened the resolve of those seeking truth. His family members, friends, and collaborators continue to speak out about their suspicions, refusing to let the official story stand unchallenged. The conspiracy theories haven't faded into hip-hop folklore. They've only grown stronger with time, fueled by new evidence and the persistent feeling that justice was never served. The most persistent voice-seeking answers has been E.B. Wright, Eazy's daughter, who has dedicated much of her adult life to investigating her father's death. In 2016, she launched a crowdfunding campaign to produce a documentary called Ruthless Scandal, No More Lies, that would present evidence of foul play in his death. The impact of Eazy's death on hip-hop culture cannot be overstated. He died at the height of his influence, just as he was working to reunite NWA and mentor the next generation of rap artists. His death robbed the culture of one of its most innovative minds at a critical moment in its evolution. Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, whom he had recently signed and was developing as his next major act, went on to massive success and dedicated their hit song, The Crossroads, to his memory. But their success also highlighted what the hip-hop world had lost: a mentor who understood both the creative and business sides of the industry. Today, Eazy-E is remembered as the Godfather of Gangsta Rap, a visionary entrepreneur who proved that artists could control their own destiny in the music industry. His legacy lives on through Ruthless Records and the countless artists he influenced. But for those closest to him, he'll always be the man whose death raised questions that have never been satisfactorily answered. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful people in entertainment can become victims of the very system they helped create. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.